I want you to really pause for a moment and think about what I'm about to say. Every single person you have ever met has already shown you exactly who they are. Not through big, serious conversations, not through the carefully chosen things they decided to tell you, but through the small, casual, unfiltered moments, the random comments they make without thinking, the opinions they drop casually in conversation, the way they talk when they're relaxed enough to stop performing and just be themselves. That's where the truth always slips out. And this becomes even more clear when it comes to intimacy, because intimacy is one of those areas where a person's real mindset, their real past, and their real relationship with connection and vulnerability shows up naturally in their language. Not because they're trying to hide anything, but because our experiences shape us so deeply that eventually they just come out in the way we speak. No announcement, no filter, just patterns. So today, we're going to go through 5 things women say casually that can quietly reveal a lot about how they view intimacy, and by extension, what kind of experiences have shaped that view. But before we go any further, let me make something very clear. This is not about judging anyone. This is not about shaming anyone. Saying these things does not make someone a bad person or a bad partner. What it does is give you information. It helps you understand how she thinks about connection, what intimacy means to her, and whether that aligns with what you're actually looking for. Because at the end of the day, alignment matters more than anything else. So let's get into it. Number 1, sex is just sex. It's not that deep. This usually comes up in a relaxed conversation about dating or relationships. It's often said casually, almost like an afterthought. And on the surface, it can actually sound like confidence, like she's comfortable, like she's not overthinking things, like she's emotionally independent. And in some cases, that's exactly what it is. But if you slow down and really think about it, there's something deeper behind that mindset. For most women, intimacy is not naturally just physical. There is usually an emotional layer connected to it, a sense of closeness, a level of vulnerability, a feeling that goes beyond just the moment itself. It connects to something internal. Now, of course, this is not a rule for everyone. There are always exceptions, but it's a pattern that shows up often enough to matter. So when someone reaches a point where intimacy feels completely separate from emotion, where it becomes purely physical with no emotional weight attached, that's usually not where they started. That's something that develops over time. It comes from repeated experiences where, little by little, the emotional side becomes less involved, until eventually the physical side stands on its own. So when a woman says, "It's not that deep," she might be completely honest about how she feels right now. But the key thing to understand is this: that mindset didn't appear overnight. It usually reflects a journey, a process, a series of experiences that shaped how she now views intimacy. And that's information. Number 2, most men don't really know what they're doing in bed. Now, this one is very important, and the reason it's important comes down to one single word: most. Not some, not a few, most. That word carries weight, because most is not just a random opinion. It's a conclusion, and conclusions come from comparison. Think about it like this. If someone tells you, "Most restaurants in this city are bad," you automatically assume they've been to a lot of restaurants in that city. You don't assume they went to 2 places and decided that, because most requires a pattern, and patterns require volume. The same logic applies here. When a woman casually says that most men don't know what they're doing, she is revealing that she has had enough experiences to notice a pattern. Not one or two, not a handful, enough to compare, enough to conclude. And there's another detail that matters. The way this is usually said, it's rarely hesitant. It's not something she's still figuring out. It comes out smoothly, casually, like something she accepted a long time ago, like a settled belief. And that ease tells you something. It tells you this conclusion didn't just happen recently. It's been part of her perspective for a while. Again, this is not about judging her, but it is information. It tells you something real about the depth of her experience without you ever having to ask directly. Number 3, I don't get attached easily. At first, this sounds like emotional strength. It sounds like self-awareness, like she understands herself, like she won't get overly attached too quickly. And in today's world, that can actually seem like a very attractive quality. But here's where you need to be careful. There is a difference between emotional maturity and emotional detachment. Emotional maturity means you feel things fully, but you know how to handle those feelings. You don't let them control you. You stay grounded. Emotional detachment is different. It often means the feelings themselves have become weaker, and that usually happens for a reason. It develops over time through repeated experiences, through cycles of connection and disconnection, until eventually the emotional system starts protecting itself by not investing as deeply. Let's make this real. Imagine you've been seeing her for a few weeks. Everything feels good, there's chemistry, conversation, consistency. Then suddenly you get busy and pull back for a short time. For most people, there would be some kind of emotional reaction. Maybe a little curiosity, maybe a slight feeling of missing that connection. But she stays completely unaffected. No change, no reaction, no shift in energy. And when you bring it up, she casually says, "I don't really get attached like that." That moment matters because the absence of a natural emotional response is the signal. Not getting attached easily is usually not something people are born with. It's something that gets built over time. Number 4, I've pretty much seen it all. This one usually shows up in early dating. Things are getting a little more playful, a little more flirty, and you start hinting directly or indirectly that you're different, that you bring something new, and she responds calmly, maybe even with a small smile. I've pretty much seen it all. Now, here's the honest truth. This statement says something about her, but it also says something about the men she's experienced before. Because a big reason many women reach this mindset is repetition. Too many similar experiences, too many interactions that feel the same, too many men focusing on performance instead of connection. When that happens again and again, everything starts to feel familiar. Nothing feels new anymore. So yes, this statement reflects experience, but it also reflects the quality of those experiences. At the same time, it tells you something very important. When she says this seriously, not jokingly, it means her level of experience has given her enough comparison points that she's no longer easily impressed. She knows what she's looking at. Number 5. If the chemistry is right, why not? This usually comes up when talking about how quickly things can become physical. And on the surface, it sounds open-minded. It sounds natural. It sounds like she follows her feelings. But let's look at it honestly. Chemistry is one of the easiest things to feel. It can come from a simple conversation, a shared laugh, eye contact, energy. And the truth is, chemistry is not rare. It happens more often than people admit. So when chemistry alone becomes the main reason for intimacy, it means decisions are being made based on the moment, not on deeper factors like trust, time, or connection. And becoming comfortable with that usually comes from experience, from doing it enough times that the decision no longer feels heavy. Again, this is not about right or wrong, but it tells you something about how she approaches intimacy, and that matters. Now, before we close, here's the most important part. None of these phrases automatically disqualify anyone. None of them mean she can't love. None of them mean she can't connect. None of them mean she can't build something real. What they do is give you insight. They show you her mindset, her emotional patterns, her relationship with connection, and what shaped all of that. What you do with that information is your choice, but the smartest decision doesn't come from obsessing over her past. It comes from paying attention to who she is right now, her values, her consistency, her character, and how she shows up for you in the present. Because the past gives you clues, but the present gives you answers. If this helped you see things more clearly, drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment, and if you found this useful, leave a like so it reaches more people who need it. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next one.